Hi guys, and welcome back to Grandpa Playing Games. And today we're going to continue on with our flight tutorial sessions in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 in preparation for the upcoming release of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. And today we're going to be looking at the section on takeoffs and landings. So let's get into it. As you can see, there's quite a few lessons here within the takeoff and landing section. We're going to be dispensing with the taxiing, but we'll probably go through each of the other sections in order that we manage to get a good grounding, so to speak, in our takeoffs and landings. Let's get underway. So here we are in the training section for a basic takeoff. And we're going to be lifting off at 55 knots and then attempting to climb at 75 knots. Okay, ready to fly.
There's an old saying I like. A mile of road will take you a mile. A mile of runway will take you anywhere. Taking off isn't hard, but there are a few key points to remember. First, we always take off into the wind, which won't be an issue on a calm day like today. Second, before we enter a runway, we always make sure it's clear. Check to the right to see if a vehicle is on the runway, and to the left to make sure no other planes are approaching.
Okay, so we check to the left and to the right. This is so much easier
Everything
with
looks
head
good,
tracking.
no cross traffic. Go ahead and taxi into position. Now slowly taxi onto the runway and align the plane with the center line. Then stop your plane just after the number 21. Excellent.
Okay.
All right, let's do this. Apply full power and I'll walk you through the takeoff as we go.
All right. Full power exerted.
Use your rudders to stay on the center line and keep pushing power until you reach 55 knots. Good. Now gently pull back on the yoke. Pull back on the yoke to take off. And we're airborne.
Okay.
Line up the top of your instrument panel so it's a couple of inches above the horizon. That'll pitch us up and set a good climb attitude. Focus on flying straight. Use your rudders to keep the runway heading of 210 degrees. Maintain 75 knots and we'll reach our target altitude of 5,500 feet in no time.
I'm sure there's no turbulence here. Having a little bit of difficulty in adjusting.
Maintain
the trim.
75 knots and climb to 5,500 feet.
There we are.
Okay,
Be about
5,500 feet. You've reached your target altitude. That was a nice takeoff.
Thank you. Well, we got an A on that. So that was pretty good. 9,024, I'm not sure. Let's have a look. We were marked down on the takeoff itself The positioning for takeoff was good, as well as checking for runway traffic. Woohoo! So 9,024 out of 10,000 points. Certainly that will do us for this one. So let's have a look at the next. Going back into the takeoff and training section, we've accomplished an A in the takeoffs. Now have a look at a Deadstick Landing. In this case, we won't have any engine power and we'll just be focusing on the yoke itself to land. Okay, let's get into it.
For this landing exercise, I want you to focus on the yoke only. We're close enough to the runway to land safely without adding any throttle. Maintain a speed of around 65 knots. Pitch down if you're going too slow. Pitch up if you're too fast.
Yeah, I need to pitch up a little bit. 70, that one's 65. Pretty good, although I'm way off to 5 is what they want.
Keep your airspeed at 65 knots. When you're 10 feet above the runway, it's time to flare. To flare means to raise the nose of the aircraft to slow your descent for a softer landing, but without ever leveling off or climbing. The main landing gear will touch down before the nose wheel does.
Drop the nose a little bit.
We're coming up on flare height. Resist the temptation to pull back. Now focus on the end of the runway and pull back slightly on the yoke to aim the nose just above it.
Oh, God.
Nice. Now apply the brakes to slow us down and bring the plane to a stop.
Alright. So that was as smooth as silk.
Well done, but there's room for improvement.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that approaching the runway at the right speed is key to a good landing.
Okay, so a B, 6,968. We may redo that at some stage, but for now, I think it'll do us. You can see following glide slope, flaring the aircraft, and stopping the aircraft, there was room for improvement in each of those areas. So we'll try that later on. But in the meantime, let's have a look at the next lesson. So we've got an A on takeoffs, we've got a B on Deadstick Landing. Let's see how we do with landing without elevator. This is where we focus on the throttle solely to control our altitude.
In this landing exercise, I want you to focus on staying on the glide path using the throttle only. Smooth action on the throttle is key for remaining on the correct glide path. If you find yourself too high, reduce your power. If you're too low, increase it. Remember though, always make soft corrections. You don't want to overcompensate.
We can see we are not aligned with the runway. We're way above the glide slope. I don't know how we're going to be able to do this without using some degree of elevator. Maybe I'll cheat. Okay. Still not aligned with the runway. Certainly above the glide slope. Yeah.
Now you can use the elevator to land.
Oh, great. Okay, this one we're definitely going to be redoing. We're way low. And we're going to touch down.
Reduce throttle to idle. Now focus on the end of the runway and pull back slightly on the yoke to aim the nose just above it. Nice. Now apply the brakes to slow us down and bring the plane to a stop.
Okay, this one definitely needs doing again.
That was excellent.
Wasn't it? How did we get an A on that? 8,097? Well, I think that, again, that's probably something that's worthwhile redoing, but I got an A, so let's continue on with the next lesson. Okay, takeoff and landings. We're on lesson number 4. We've already achieved an A in takeoff, a B in the Deadstick Landing, and somehow an A in landing without elevator. Now let's going to look at combining both the throttle and the elevator to do a conventional landing.
My first instructor used to say, the best part of flying is landing in one piece. Today, you're in charge of bringing us in for a safe landing. And I've already set us up in landing configuration at 65 knots with 10 degrees of flaps and idle power.
Okay.
Keep your aim point on the runway threshold.
There is
when
a
you're
runway.
10 feet above the runway, it's time to flare.
Now that's nice. I can't see the runway. Oh, there it is. Okay, let's align with the runway. Try and maintain 65. I'm maintaining 65 knots, so we'll get pinged for that. Above the glide slope, we can see 4 white happy lights to the left of the airstrip. Nose a little bit, I think. Maintain the airspeed, we'll reduce the throttle to increase the rate of descent. And again, we're not at 65 knots. Okay. This is a horrible looking picture. Ah! Bouncing all over the place.
Use throttle to idle.
Yeah.
Now focus on the end of the runway and pull back slightly on the yoke to aim the nose just above it. Nice.
Yeah, I
Now
don't think
apply
it
the
was
brakes
nice
to
at all.
slow us down and bring the plane to a stop.
If I get an A on this, I'm going to be quite disappointed. Still, pretty scenery.
You did well, but you can do better.
Absolutely.
Keep
That's
in
awesome.
mind that approaching the runway at the right speed is key to a good landing.
Well, B, should we do it again? I think we should do this one again. What do you think? Yeah? Let's do it again. Okay, having attempted to do this once already, let's see if we can do it better the second time around.
first instructor used to say, the best part of flying is landing in one piece. Today, you're in charge of bringing us in for a safe landing. And I've already set us up in landing configuration at 65 knots with 10 degrees of flaps and idle power. Keep your aim point on the runway threshold. When you're 10 feet above the runway, it's time to flare.
Okay, pitch or speed, throttle for altitude. We are too high. We'll reduce the throttle. And to drop our nose down a little bit. Reduce the throttle a bit more. Try to get onto that glide slope if we can. Throttle some more. Speed is good. We are too high. Quite challenging. And now I found it always a lot easier in the real thing. Okay, we're coming into the right glide slope now.
Reduce throttle to idle. Now focus on the end of the runway and pull back slightly on the yoke to aim the nose just above it.
Ah, no, we bounced.
Nice. Now apply the
Not
brakes
nice.
to slow us down and bring the plane to a stop.
Okay, well I think the approach was better. Obviously the landing was atrocious, but that's okay. Anyone you can walk away from is a good
That
landing.
was excellent.
See if we get an A this time. Yay, we did. I think, yeah, definitely the stopping the aircraft and flaring the aircraft were the areas for improvement. But an A is good, so I think we can move on to the next lesson. Okay, doing a traffic pattern, so this is going to be interesting. Doing a traffic pattern will be interesting because we need to adjust the flaps. We also need to be very conscious of our altitude. Okay.
Okay, we're currently flying on the downwind leg at the standard traffic pattern altitude of 6,000 feet. It's a flight path parallel to the landing runway, but in the opposite direction. In downwind, you want to start preparing for landing. That means setting your speed and flaps configuration. Reduce speed to 80 knots. Maintain constant altitude and heading. The flaps provide extra lift at the expense of additional drag. This extra lift allows flying at a lower airspeed. Flaps allow for smoother and shorter landings. Go ahead and extend 10 degrees of flaps, all while maintaining current altitude. We're gonna fly past the end of the runway here. Keep going until you see it at a 45-degree angle behind you. That's your cue to turn left onto the base leg.
Well, hopefully we do that before we smash into these cliffs. 45 degrees, about now. We're going to turn.
You need to stay in the pattern for the sake of this exercise.
What? Okay.
Turn left onto the base leg.
Alright.
Try to maintain 1400 RPM. That'll also keep our speed around 65 knots. Keep an eye on the runway as we get ready for our final turn. Turn left onto final.
Oh.
Make your left turn onto final.
Yeah, I want to roll out of the right place.
Make your left turn onto final. Keep a stabilized approach and prepare for landing.
As usual, a little high, a little fast. Hit another notch of. Ah, floating like anything. And a
Apply
nice
the brakes
smooth
and
landing.
stop the plane.
Okay, I think we can do this one again as well. Where'd we go wrong?
You followed the traffic pattern well. Good job.
But, no buts. But you got a B. And I think I was lucky to deserve that. The final approach and landing was what really let us down. Preparing for landing, I don't know, I think that went better than they said, but let's try it again, I think.
Okay, we're currently flying on the downwind leg at the standard traffic pattern altitude of 6,000 feet. It's a flight path parallel to the landing runway, but in the opposite direction. In downwind, you want to start preparing for landing. That means setting your speed and flaps configuration. Reduce speed to 80 knots. Maintain constant altitude and heading. The flaps provide extra lift at the expense of additional drag. This extra lift allows flying at a lower airspeed. Flaps allow for smoother and shorter landings. Go ahead and extend 10 degrees of flaps, all while maintaining current altitude.
10 degrees of flaps.
We're gonna fly past the end of the runway here. Keep going until you see it at a 45-degree angle behind you. That's your cue to turn left onto the base leg.
High. Little slow. Not quite 45 degrees yet. That's pretty close.
Turn left onto the base leg.
Still 80 knots. Started our descent. place.
Try to maintain 1400 RPM.
Reduce our RPM down
That'll
to
also keep our
1400.
speed around 65 knots. Keep an eye on the runway as we get ready for our final turn.
If we can't get the speed down,
Turn left onto final.
keep the nose up, keep the speed down.
Make your left turn onto final.
Turn onto final.
Make your left turn onto...
Yes, yes. Thank you. Overshot it a bit.
Keep a stabilized approach and prepare for landing.
I'm not maintaining 65 knots. Get paid for that. Sure. I'm gonna hit another notch of flaps. Try to get that speed down. And flat.
Apply the brakes and stop the plane.
Okay, obviously room for improvement there as well. It's a base leg.
You followed the traffic pattern well. Good job.
Only a B. Yeah. It's the final approach. And maintaining 65 knots there. Fairly close to an A. I think I'll move on to the next one. And we'll go on to our first solo flight. So this is basically doing a circuit. Climbing out. Maintaining 80 knots at about 1,000 feet, I believe, above ground level. Okay, ready to fly. That's what they say.
It's time. Your first solo flight. I'll be watching from the ground in radio contact if you need me, but something tells me you won't. Your goal is to complete Sedona's left-hand traffic pattern on your own. Remember what we covered in our previous sessions, and you'll be just fine. Good luck. See you on the other side.
Okay, let's take off. Knots, rotate. And climb around 70, 75. 75, let's say. Up. Up. So this is okay. I think we're keeping around about the 75 knots. only through use of elevator to adjust our climb speed. We've dropped a little bit. At this stage, we should be looking at turning. Downwind. Coming left. Maintain 6,000. Looking for the runway, not finding it. Oh, there it is. We need to maintain 80 knots, 6,000 feet. Too fast, too high. Welcome to my world. Drop a little bit. It's very demanding. Back to 80 knots. And try to keep to 6,000 feet. Now we're good on the 6,000 feet, we're not good on the 80 knots. Not far off. Come on, let's get them both for a little while. Yeah, now we have them both. Try and maintain them both. Ah. Okay. Degrees flaps and left for the base leg, and I think we can already start reducing our throttle by our RPMs down to 1400. 1400. Yeah, 1400. for the final approach. The red's too wide, not bad. A little fast. Nose up to drop our speed. Are we too high as well? Our nose up. Speed's a little high. Speed is good. The rate of descent is good. Going to cut our throttle entirely. Oh, and I add. Oh, that was a little hard. A bit hard, a bit fast. Never mind. I don't think it'll be an A, but we'll have succeeded, I think.
You did well, but you can do better.
Yeah,
You're on your way to becoming one hell of a pilot.
I know. Alright, what do we get? A B. I think B is fair, given all the difficulties I have. The main difficulty, I don't know why the takeoff was considered to be poor. I guess it was the maintaining 75 knots part that I let myself down on. I think the downwind leg was reasonably okay. One of the things I need to do is look at the sensitivities of my yoke, because certainly as I'm coming in for a landing, small movements are having big alterations. So I'm going to be adjusting that for next time. But for now, I think that that's pretty good. So let's go back to our training menu one more time. Have a look. 71% mastered. I assume you have to get A's on everything in order to get 100% mastery. But given the fact that we're not going to do taxiing, I think that wasn't too bad today. So, as per usual, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please do like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And we'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye for now.